Cool. So my name is Sadok Cervantes, and I'm going to talk to you about metrics in human behavior, and specifically things that you can use in UX, in your job, in product, so that you can, all the tools that you can go tell your boss that they're wrong and you're right. So a little bit about me. I'm a product designer. I come all the way from Mexico. And I've done work in the MIT Media Lab, Wikipedia, Lufthansa, Allianz, and a bunch of other companies. But what I think is my personal, achievement that I'm most proud of is I got named one of the most innovative people in recent years by Fast Company magazine, and a bunch of other stuff. But enough about me, let's talk about someone else. So this is David Travis, and David Travis is a UX consultant like most of us, right? He works in UX, he works in product, and as a UX consultant, he was doing a very large project a few years ago for HP. He is from the UK, and he was traveling to Germany, to the offices in HP, because he was doing work there. He went through the usual stuff that we go through. He landed on the airport, and then he went to the car rental office, and he rented a car, and he went down to the parking lot and turned it on and drove to the exit. But he found a line, like a very long line of cars. And he was wondering, it's very curious to have a line in a parking lot, So when he got to the like that thing that opens, he encountered this. And you had to press a button to open the gate to get out. What button would you press to open the gate? Green, yeah? Yeah, makes sense. You had to press the red one. That's why there was a line. People didn't, they were trying to press the green one, just like you tried to do, and it didn't work. So someone had to shout, usually the security guard were like, press the red button, and then people would press the red button, and then the gate would open. Now, he worked at HP. He finished his work, he went back, and a few months go by, and usually, as big projects work, they are like several months long. He came back, and he encountered a line in the parking lot. And he was like, well, it's very curious to still have this problem, because, people would know, like the managers of the parking lot would know that there's an issue. And they did do something about it. They put this big sign, push the red button, please press the red button to do something, and it didn't work. People were still, having a big line in the parking lot. Anyway, he did his work, he went back to the UK, a few months go by, and he comes back to Germany, and he encountered a line. And he was like, well, what can you do, besides this, to really tell people to push the red button? Well, there was something that the managers did, which is put 3 red arrows pointing towards the button. Now, even with this, he encountered a line. So there was obviously an issue there. What do you think was the issue here? I mean, obviously, we can't know the engineers and the manufacturers' specifications or whatever, but in terms of what is related to us, as designers, as product managers, owners, what do you think went wrong?
That is a destructive feature or something we're scared to press because we know that something might be bad will happen.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, like an error in color perception, There are some cultures that red is not destructive. So, could be something related to that, maybe. Anyone else with a thought? Yeah?
The button doesn't have importance, so if you see it, you don't understand
Yeah, I mean, even in the previous one, it doesn't tell you what it does, you know? So, like, I would be worried of pressing a red button. So I would say if I can put it in a single word, I would say that the problem was that they assumed like a lot of things, right? Like they assumed that red was a non-destructive button in the German culture, for example, or the international culture, because this was the international airport of Berlin. And I think this is one of the capital sins that we as product creators can do, you know, to assume a lot of stuff about our users, you know, because we usually think that if I can do it, if I can drink a glass of water, everyone can drink a glass of water, right? Like there's no way people can mess that up. And, and that's not really true. Everyone has different backgrounds, cultures, and we can't assume that people will know everything that we can do, right? But we have user research, right? Like we know that we have our own biases. We know that we can't assume. So we have this tool called user research at our disposal that puts us in the mind of our users, right? The thing is about user research is that even when done correctly, the questions, you know, the surveys, the user testing, everything gets taken out of context. Like the user is not in its natural habitat when answering the surveys, when doing a user test, whether it's live, remote, or unmoderated, or whatever. One example that I found about user research was this survey that I found that I received after using an e-commerce website. You know, I bought something and then I received this satisfaction survey / marketing survey. And it said, while shopping at a computer e-commerce website, how important are the following attributes to you? And then you can rank them from not important to very important. And the first one is a vast variety of products. Well, usually in e-commerce should have a vast variety of products, right? So like, I think like that first one is like a little stupid. The second one, wide range of prices. Well, it's not a dollar store, so I definitely need several options. But I think the one that takes the cake is this one. Good quality products. Who in their right mind would answer not important in good quality products? Someone that says, oh no, I like crappy things, you know, like give me something low quality. I like a challenge. So even when done right, like this is like a very expensive survey done by a very big marketing agency, whatever, and it doesn't work. It doesn't tell you something that it's actionable. It doesn't tell you something that, you know, some of these questions, the government census doesn't even ask some of these questions, you know, like what's your income at your family? You know, I've seen some user research questions ask that. You know, what's your family's income? How many children do you have? You know, things that are not really related to product itself. You know, it's a demographic survey, but it's not related to product. And let's say that you want to build a slide, you know, like a slide for kids at a park. You might do a survey like this, you know, you might interview kids like, hey kids, do you like slides? Yes, we do. Okay, let's build a slide. And then you build a slide, and then you encounter like, we have an issue, you know. Our users told us that they will use the slides, and they are not using the slides. So what's the problem? And this is just a slide, but like move that to a project. Like it could be a feature being built that is not being used. It could be like this is a government-funded park, and it obviously cost like millions of dollars or euros. So it's wasted money, it's wasted resources, all because the research told you to do it, and you did it, and it didn't work. This is, you know, the topic of the talk. You know, user research is usually not enough. And I like what Henry Ford said about the subject. He said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. If he did user research back then, people would have told him, like, I want my horse to have this feature, or a rocket to ride faster, or a more comfortable seat, whatever. He knew that human behavior is a very peculiar in we do things, but we say we're going to do things, but we do other things, right? It's just human nature. So this is why user research, in my opinion, it's not enough. You need something else to complement user research. I'm not saying that user research is useless. You need to complement it with real-world data, with human behavior metrics. And the reason you do that, I mean, there's nothing wrong with creating that slide for the kids. I mean, they are having fun, right? They're not using the slide, but they are having fun. The issue is that you're hired to make a business more money, right? Like that's why we're hired at companies. That's why we have our own companies, to make money, to make profit, to make an impact in the world, whatever. And if you're not doing that, if you're not giving the business any value, you're gonna get fired. That's the reality. And I've seen a lot of designers in companies and product owners and whatever that really advocate for the user, but the user research tells us this, and the user testing tells us that. But the reason is, the issue is, if you're not complementing what the users want with what the business wants, then you're not providing any value to the business. If all you care about is the end user, then you're just a user advocate. You're not a designer, you're not a product creator, you're not a product owner or manager. Your product should generate a result. That's what we're hired to do. And in order to generate a result, your product should create a behavior, right? Well, how do you create a behavior? Well, first, by understanding that behavior that the users have in their natural habitat, by observation of conduct. I'm going to give you one example of observation of conduct in the digital world. It's 2021, and people still search Google on Google. That means, it means a lot of things, like people can't seem to use search engines, can't seem to use web browsers, but it goes deeper than that. How do I know this? Well, the top 5 search terms on Google as of last year are these ones, and if you look at number 5, it's Google. The first one being Facebook, YouTube, Amazon, Gmail. So what it means is people are using search engines as web browsers, right? They couldn't care less about URLs. Some ads or whatever, they have the URL there, like Airbnb.com or go to whatever.com to get the service. But people don't remember the URLs, and here's the proof. And this search volume is monthly. Like, it's not small. Like, it's not yearly. It's per month. And the other metric that is important is the return rate. That return rate is a ratio, like a proportion of how many times the same user will perform that same search in 1 month. So imagine this. You go to Google, search Facebook, and then you see the first result, that it's facebook.com. You click on it, and then you go to facebook.com. You might think that after the 3rd time a user does that, he knows that he can go to facebook.com and save all that time and all those steps. They're not. They're doing it at a ratio of 11 times per month. So this is a very key behavior that is telling you that the way that you're teaching your users to use URLs, or your Omnibox in Chrome, for example, or Firefox or whatever, is not working. People are still going to Google to go to their favorite websites. Now, this is not the only search engine that this happens. Bing, the second largest one, also has the same problem, but it's a bit sad because the top 1 search term in Bing is Google. So they are going to Bing, then going to Google, and then searching for what they want. Now this is, and the search volume is still incredibly high. Now I'm gonna tell you a story about observation of conduct in the real world, not just digital, because I think this is very important. So far, I've told this story to about 3,000 people over the years, and only 10 have gotten it right. So pay close attention to see if you are the 11th person out of 3,500 so far. Do we have microphones for the audience? Yeah, all right, cool. So I'm gonna tell you the story, and at the end, I'm gonna ask you a question. And if you have an answer, if you think you have an answer, just raise your hand and someone will bring you a mic. Sounds good? So this story happened in Vietnam, 1990s Vietnam. This was a very rural village, like a remote village in Vietnam. It wasn't like industrialized or anything. Like they did, like it was a 10,000 village and 10,000 people village, and they did their own farming. They had, their livestock, their farms. They did their own fishing. Everything was local. They had their own water wells, everything. They had, however, one very big issue, and that issue was that 60% of all children were dying from malnutrition. It was a very big issue. So big that the Vietnamese government, the central government, took notice of this, and their solution was to send food supplements for the kids, like those that come in powder that you add to water. And it worked. They sent like tons of those powder supplements. The parents added it to the water for the kids, and it worked. But they ran out, and they started to be malnourished again. So they needed a sustainable solution. The government can't forever send these supplements, right? So at the time, there was this famous anthropologist in Tufts University in the US, and the Vietnamese government, in conjunction with some nonprofits of the area, they called him and they said, hey, can you come help us understand what's going on? Because we have no idea what is happening with these kids. And he said, sure, my wife and I will go as an anthropologist team and we'll try to understand what's wrong. So they landed in Vietnam, they went to the village, and here's the question. If you were in the anthropologist's shoes, what would you do to start solving the issue?
Hello, yeah. So I will check with moms first, not with the children.
What would you ask the moms?
Like first I'll check what their health routine, what their lifestyle is, and when they are pregnant, how they are taking care of themselves and what they're eating, whether they're exercising and all of that, because it all depends, genes and how, kid is taking birth. So everything is related, right? So if he's weak when he's taking birth, it doesn't matter how much, you feed them, they're always, after a point, they're always malnourished. So that's what I feel.
Okay, so let's play with that scenario. So exactly what questions you want to ask. Let's say that I'm the mom of a family that is affected. What would you ask me?
I will just, I'll ask a first question, what is your daily routine? What do you eat?
Our daily routine is we have breakfast at 7 a.m., then the kids go to their schools at 8 a.m., then we go to work, then the kids have their meals at 2 p.m., when they leave school, then we go pick them up, and at 8 p.m., 7 p.m. we have dinner, and then we go to bed.
No, I'm not talking about kids after they are born. I'm talking about before that, when they're pregnant.
When they're pregnant?
Yeah, when the lady is pregnant, then that is my first audience. That should be my first audience, right? That's the actual key point I would like to focus on, right? Because if, there are certain people who are malnourished or kids who are malnourished, so mother is the main issue, right? So we have to check with the mother, not with the kids.
Okay, so when I was pregnant of my kids, I don't remember what my habits were
All right.
because that was like 5 years ago. All right, what
Okay.
else?
Don't know.
All right, thank you. Who else? Okay.
Maybe I would not ask any questions and start with observation first.
All right, what would you observe?
And then the very first question I would ask you is, do you have any questions?
Do I have any questions for the researchers? Why is my kid dying? But what observations? That's like I need you to be detailed, right? Because let's run with the scenarios as they come. Yeah.
My turn. Sorry.
Oh.
I will turn to the 40, one of the 40% families first, and ask specific questions about how they are cooking. So what ingredients they use for breakfast, lunch.
All right. What specific questions you want to ask? Like you're asking me what I had for lunch.
Are you cooking? Where are you getting your ingredients from?
Yeah. Okay.
Is there a lot of vegetables and fruits or not?
So we go to the village market to get our produce, and for breakfast, you know, we eat rice with some vegetables. For the main meal at the middle of the day, we eat poultry with rice again, and at for dinner we usually eat some eggs, and we combine that with some potatoes and some vegetables. Yeah. What else?
So my turn.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I would first need a few clarifications before even getting into the research design. At what age are kids dying? The 60%?
From 3 to 6.
Oh, so it's not toddlers, but it's already
Yeah, it's
kids.
they are a little
3
bit
to 6 years.
older. Yeah, from 2 to 6 around. Yeah.
Okay, so getting a few analytics to kind of get, okay, what's the specificity of that group? I would just kind of wire 5 moms with cameras and let them go a week and then look at what's happening there.
How many moms do you want to film?
Depending on how many I've got access to and how many camera sets. Well, you said 10,000 village. So I would try to get different moms from different areas, say 10, 15 will probably give me already a good start.
All right. Would you have the 15 cameras, or would you, let's say that you have 5, and would you do 5 one week, 5 the other week? And
I guess I would get the first 5, see what comes from there, if it's really valuable, before I continue with the next batches of 5.
All right. How long would you say it would take you to analyze the footage of 5 weeks worth of 5 people?
Quite a lot. If I don't have
just do an approximation.
5 weeks from 5 people, all the videos from every day, at least a month.
A month. All right.
Yeah.
So let's say that you do that and you put GoPros in the heads of the moms, and you basically record the entire week for one person, and then you have 5 weeks for 5 different people. You analyze in 4 weeks, it takes you a month, and you find that there's no significant difference between each one. And now 1 month has passed and more children are dead.
You can't save everyone. You gotta prioritize.
That's true. Mrs. Thanos over here. Yeah.
So I'll be curious to ask, so you were, as a mother or as a head of a family who feeds the family. You were describing your schedule and what you eat, and you said we eat. But what portions of that does the kid eat? I would be curious because you see kids nibbling on their food and not really touching it or eating it. At the end, they just end up eating a few grains of rice. So I would be curious to focus on the kid and exactly to find out what do they eat.
Yeah, we make sure that our children eat their full plate before they go out to play. Yeah, we don't have to quit, so it's not. I mean, I'm not a parent in real life, so that's why I'm saying it's easy. Yeah.
I would ask what levels of physical activity the children engage with every day, and try and observe that as well.
Do you want to observe, or are you asking me?
I would start by asking, and then I would follow up by observing how much physical activity they engage in.
Yeah, so I think they play in the school, like I'm not there to watch them, but they have like a playground. And when they come home, they sometimes help their father do some fishing, and they play some more in the afternoon, and that's it. Oh, sorry, yeah.
I mean, moms, yeah, it's important to know what are they feeding to their children and what amount of food they're giving. But I guess another factor which I think is important is that children usually have a lower safety or immune system. So maybe I would test something in their water or in their food that they're eating to see that if it is something is wrong with the food that they are eating.
What would you test? Give me something specific.
Like, I don't know, maybe the water they are drinking,
the water.
Food, like from the agricultural products.
All right, let's say that you test the water. Let's start with the water. You go to the village well, grab a sample, and then you ship it to Vietnam, to a lab in one of the big cities. Then they need to run some tests and get back to you. How long do you think it would take from shipping from where you are to the lab, testing, and back again?
I don't know exactly, but as she said, you cannot save everyone. But you gotta sacrifice sometimes, because if you want to eradicate the problem from like forever, you have to consider all the factors.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Well, you do that. 3 weeks pass.
More children dies.
The test results came back negative. More children are dead. All right, last one, because we can't go on forever.
I want to play two.
All right, just two.
No, I've got him, and then the next was, yes, the gentleman here, and then we're right to cut it off.
I think it's my turn. Yeah, all right. My question was, because we didn't state that before, I think that do all the families have access to the same amount of food, actually?
That's a good question. That's a very good question.
Are they like many families grow food for themselves, right?
Sure.
Do they share their food, or does the father like grow the food for only their family? And so that means, because if he has like a hard time, obviously his family is going to be malnourished.
Yeah, that's a very good point. There are no socioeconomical differences in the village. So everyone has the same resources and access to the same food, water, supply, whatever. They go to the market to exchange products, but no one is like poor or anything. One tip that I can give you is, if the problem was the food or the water supply or food poisoning or whatever, then the parents would be sick as well. And only the children are sick. Right? Do you have one last one? Yeah? Cool.
Well, I'm not going to have it right for sure, but is there a central moment, like in school, where you can change up the diet of the kids to see if there's a difference?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you can. I mean, it's a public school. You can change diet. How long do you think it would take you to do testing whether a particular meal is taking effect?
Well, if the kids eat the right meal, they don't die.
That's true. Well, I mean, you can't save everyone, right? All right. I'm going to tell you what happened. This is a real story, so something happened. Usually when I tell this story, a very specific bias that all humans have comes into play, which is we remove the positives and only focus on the negative. Only one of you focused on the positive. She asked, what are the 40% that are healthy doing? Because 40% of families, 40% of children are healthy in the same location, with the same resources, with the same water supply, with the same food supply. How is it that 40% are healthy and 60% are malnourished if there are no socio-economical classes and everyone has access to the same thing? But what she was missing was a comparison point. What do you do with that, with the observation of that conduct? You need to compare it. So the solution that the anthropologist had was, he realized the same thing as she did, and he went to the healthy families and asked them, what are you doing differently from the unhealthy families? And they said, we don't know. Just like they didn't remember what they did during their pregnancy, they didn't know what they were doing differently. So he started observing, like she said, but he also observed the 60%. And you could put the GoPro cameras, whatever, but it's not just at 15 moms at random. It was one from the 40% and one from the 60%. After reviewing the footage or asking questions or living with them, whatever, he found that there was this small crustaceans in the village that villagers caught, that fishermen caught. But there was common knowledge in the village that you don't feed those small crustaceans to children because they can choke on them. However, the 40% of families that were healthy had an inner tradition where they knew the recipe to cook these small crustaceans in a way that was safe for children to consume. And he found that these small crustaceans provided enough micronutrients, protein, and calories to keep the children healthy enough. So what's the solution? He took some of the 40% of families, he did cooking workshops for the entire village, problem solved. And I think only like 2 weeks passed from the start to a finish. So what's the key learning here? What did you ask, or what did you think the solution was, and how is that related to your own biases? Because everyone asked things based on their own biases. Like I'm pretty sure she's like she likes science, for example. She immediately thought of testing something chemically, organically. So I'm pretty sure she likes science or something. Someone else, you, for example, I'm pretty sure you are a very people person because you like to watch, you like to interact. So all of us have our own biases. And it's very important that when observing conduct, when observing digital conduct, you do not put those biases in, because then you might as well do some user research and call it a day. All right? That's one of the biases that are put into this exercise, this story, but several happen. Like negativity bias, biasing everything into just the negative stuff. I remember there was some research conducted by a university in the US where 10 couples, one of the partners told the other partner, sent the other partner 15 messages in Instagram DMs or whatever. 14 of those messages were, you look fat. And then one of those messages were, I love you so much. And the responses to those messages were, why are you calling me fat? Completely disregarding, sorry, no, I had it wrong. 14 of those messages were, I love you so much. And only one was, you look fat though. And the response was, why are you calling me fat? You know, only focusing on the negativity, just like we did here. Now, how does the observation of digital conduct look in the real world? Well, I'm sure you've all seen this interface, right? E-commerce, returning customers on one end, new customers on the other. Usually when people get here, they either need to log in, you know, to avoid entering all the information, you know, about their shipping or whatever. And then new customers need to sign up to go through the same thing. It's a hassle, right? It's a hassle to sign up to something. I mean, you just want to buy the damn thing, you know? It's a hassle to go through a sign-up process. So a lot of users thought that they had accounts already in that website. This is a specific case study for a real company. And they found that 160,000 users requested new passwords daily. Like they clicked the forgot password link because they thought that they already had an account. So they said, well, I don't remember the password. I'm just gonna ask for, you know, for a reset and see if I get anything back. And they found that the issue was so severe that, you know, people not remembering their passwords, 45% of all their accounts had multiple accounts. Like some customers even had up to 10 accounts. Now, up to this point, you would say, well, there's nothing wrong with that. Our forgot password UX flow works. Why do we need to look at this? Well, the issue was that, you know, they started digging deeper and, you know, observing the digital behavior of these users that requested for a new password. And they found that 75% of these users never tried to complete the purchase after requesting the password. So they had a full cart of items. They didn't remember the password. They clicked request password. Whether they got an email or not, it didn't really matter. The metrics said that 75% of these users never completed a purchase. Can you imagine how much money that is? It's a big amount. So what this company did, they were like, do we really need to users to sign up first? And they said, well, let's try something crazy. Let's let people don't sign up. So they redesigned the new customers form with this. It's not necessary to create an account to buy on our site. Just click continue to check out. To make your future purchases even faster, you can create an account during checkout. And they still highlighted the sign up because they want you to sign up, and then they continue. And this was later streamlined into continuous guest. Have you used continuous guest in an e-commerce? I have. It's very, very convenient, right? Well, it started here. It started specifically for Best Buy around 10 years ago. There was this guy, which you probably know, called Jared Spool. He's a very big UX guy in the US. And he consulted with Best Buy to create this continuous guest button. And they call it the $300 million button because during the first year, the site generated $300 million in additional revenue just by changing one button. So what can the behavior that your users have in your site tell you about what they want? Because there was no way that regular user testing would tell you something. Because usually when you are doing a user test, the users get here and they're not gonna tell you, oh, I'm lazy and I don't wanna do this. You know, they are there, they are getting paid to be there anyway. You know, they are not just gonna get up and watch TV like they would when they are home. When they are home, they're just gonna close the tab and go watch TV. That's why user testing doesn't really work in this case. So what can you do to monitor the behavior? It's not just about analytics or numbers or whatever. You can use several tools. One of them is Heatmaps. Hotjar is just a tool out of many that can give you heat maps. It can give you scroll heat maps, and it can give you click heat maps. How do they work? Well, you have your homepage, and then you have like a gradient of how many people are scrolling to that part of your website. The parts that almost no one visits or sees are in cold, and the hot ones are things that people do watch or do see. This was, for example, a page for a job listing, and they wanted people to obviously click apply, which it did. You can see there's a very harsh drop down, after you reach the jobs. But they wanted people to see this, their Glassdoor rating, and only 20% of visitors were seeing it. So what was the solution? You put it before the job listing. That's it. That's one win that Heatmaps can give you. What if you have this video on your homepage? You're loading these resources, you're making your website heavier because you think that a video will give you, more conversion. Well, out of 7,000 clicks in the homepage, only 3 people play the video. So you're loading like a lot of things only to benefit 3 users, and they didn't even convert. So it's not that useful. You can create funnels and then see what's your biggest drop-off, and then try to see what's the behavior happening there. Trick question: which one is the heat map that you want for your website? Left or right? Right? Left. Left, because people look at everything in your site, right? Well, you actually want the right one, because there was a change there where you see the big drop-off, where this e-commerce website put the categories there, and people would find what they were looking for faster. So they didn't have to scroll all the way down to purchase something. So the less time that people spend on your website, in this case, was the better thing to do. Now, another tool, it's called Full Story. I don't particularly like this one because it's very expensive, but it works. There's something that they call rage clicking, and rage clicking happens when you're trying to do something and it doesn't work. So here you can see the recording where the user is losing their mind because they can't purchase. So this is a behavior that you can track. Now, here's the summary of the whole talk. How do you do this in your product, in your service, or whatever? You use a framework. I like to use a framework called Google's Heart. It stands for happiness, engagement, adoption, retention, and that's success. Notice that all of these metrics or things, categories, are related to behavior. They're not related to website visits or money in the bank or revenue or whatever. They are related to behavior. The first step is to select a couple of categories related to your product or service. Doesn't really matter which one. And then you set a goal. But you do not set a goal based on the metrics that you are currently seeing. For example, you don't want to increase your site's traffic because that doesn't tell you anything, right? The goal for this example is, I want users to enjoy content and keep discovering more to engage with. Now, the step number 3 is you identify the behavior to observe, a signal, what you think is the best predictor that will get users to their goal. In this case, is the amount of time users spend engaging with content, right? And number 4 is you identify the metrics to measure, to know where something is successful or not. Now, the signal is time, but the specific metric is the average number of minutes spent engaging in content on the site per user per day. That's a behavior, a specific behavior that you can track. And this process usually leads you to a natural prioritization of your business metrics, because it tells you exactly what users how users are behaving in your website, in your product, and then you can optimize for that. It's not about what the CEO thinks you should do or what your product manager thinks you should do or what feature needs to be built because it's on the roadmap, So to finish, it's, my recommendation is always observe the behavior, measure it, and evaluate it against something, Don't just observe and stay with the 40%. Always try to evaluate against something, against the status quo, against other users, so that you know what's going on. That's how Best Buy knew that 75% of users were not coming back to evaluate, against something. You can't evaluate behavior that you're not measuring, all right? And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.